Hi, it's Glenn McQueenie, and thanks for listening to my Success Series podcast. So today's special guest is Kevin Yu, and Kevin Yu is the broker of record for Royal LePage Terrequity, Kevin Yu Brokerage in Toronto. So Kevin, welcome, and thanks for joining me on the line.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. So just give me a little idea of where, how long you've been in the business, where you get most of your business now, and then where you'd like to kind of take your business. And then let's see if we can come up with some fun, exciting ideas.
Oh, that's awesome, Glenn. So I've been in the business for about 9 years. Wow, it's weird that think of it. I've been a realtor for 9 years. Uh,
Hmm.
I get most of my business from my database. I've been really good at generate referrals out of it, and I have a method for that. Yeah, that's like 70% of my business is from my database where I do.
Great.
Yeah, so I do drop-bys, calls, and such, and I'm very good at touch points with them, and that's what I've been doing for the last like 5 years.
Okay. And then where do you want to kind of take your business? What's the next step for you over the next couple of years?
Well, doubling my income would be good, just like one of your first books.
Okay.
That would be a great goal. I just find that I'm at a ceiling right now where I can't pass a certain GCI, and
Hmm.
I'm doing the same things. Don't get me wrong, I love my business, but I want to get to the point where I don't have to work weekends anymore, and I don't have to work evenings. That's the goal, while
Right.
doubling my income.
Well, there's this kind of magical thing that happens for most realtors between like year 8 and 12. So it's kind of your timing's right on there that after you kind of build up your business to a certain level, there's a certain point where I don't know if it's bored is the right answer, but it's kind of like the same stuff, like just a different client, but same old business every single time. And so what most people do once they get to that level, it's like, okay, now how can I leverage my business so I can just get more freedom of time, freedom of money, like, spend more time in relationships with people you care about, and like kind of build wealth for the future. So is that kind of where you are right now?
You hit exactly where I am right now, Glenn. That's exactly where I am. I'm doing well. Business is good, but it is the same old. I've lost my like fire, as you could say, like from the
Hmm.
first 2 3 years where I was running around like crazy, doing a lot of deals. But at the same time, back then there was not a lot of free time. It was all just business, 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 and
Right.
my priorities have changed a little bit because I have a young family. I have a 6 year old daughter and a
Mm.
beautiful wife that I want to spend more time with.
Right. So, gee, it's more time leverage and also money freedom, I guess, is what you really want.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay. And do you have a team or are you like a solo agent right
I used to have actually a bricks and mortar brokerage in Liberty Village. Had a team with my old partner where we had a agent and administrator. But
now? Hmm.
since then, we disbanded that. So now I'm building my team up again. I have two admin staff to help with marketing and admin stuff, and I also have one agent that just signed on with me right now, just to hopefully take on leads and such.
Okay. And so the new agent, okay, so there's like the two first freedoms you get in real estate is your administrative time, right? And you've already started building that already, like just the simple following up, staying day to day, staying current with all the things that most agents find highly irritating, right? Like
Yes.
the paperwork, like the follow up, like what's got to get done. Is that where you were?
Yes, my min stuff. I have both of them are somewhat part time, and
Okay.
they handle like my marketing, my the processing of the paperwork, calling for home inspectors, photographers, that sort of stuff, handling that sort of stuff for the listing part, so that I'm just not focusing on those sort of things.
Perfect. And then the second biggest freedom you're going to get is when you can actually get either a showing specialist or some type of buyer agent into your business, right? So there's a really cool model that kind of goes that most agents can get to 36, 40 deals by themselves, and then they max themselves out. And then with their admin help, they can usually get to 60. But then to grow their business anymore, you need to leverage off all the buying time because you know, some people might say, "Oh, I did 30 deals last year," but they might have been actually spending time with 60, 70, or 80 buyers. It's just like a lot of people like buyers take a lot more time than your listings do.
God damn, yeah. I like listing. I'm pretty much have the listing down pat. We have processes and systems. So when I put a listing on, it's very easy for me to handle like 5 to 10 listings at a time.
Right, great. Well, I mean, that's the beautiful part of leverage. And so, what we can do in real estate is you can actually price your time for activities, right? So, if you were to list a property and it's priced right and it shows well, how many hours total from when you meet the person, sold, done, firm deal, would you say on average it's taking you in Toronto right now?
Probably about a little bit under 10 hours, I'm thinking.
Right. So 10 hours, and what would be your average price that you're selling your listings at?
They're selling about 6 to 700,000, so that's about like 16 to 18,000
Right.
for the commission.
Right. So if we could actually price listing time, which is actually getting the listing appointment, meeting with the people, getting the listing agreement signed, doing the offer, and negotiating, we can almost price that 10 hours at, say, let's say it was even 20 hours at a $16,000 commission is about $800 an hour. That's what the listing time is actually worth
Hmm.
gross to most realtors, right? Now let's look at the buying time because we can price that in the marketplace too. Like, what would it cost you to hire somebody to just do showings for you? Like, where's the market? If you look around, like, how much do you think you'd have to pay somebody on an hourly basis to show?
No, I never really thought about that part, Glenn. Because I never really priced my per hour for working with buyers because they range from doing like 3 showings for finding a place to I have one that's been like 150.
Right. So I think in Toronto, I think the marketplace to have someone do your showings is anywhere from $25 to $75 an hour. Would you agree? Like you could get someone in your office to go and show somebody if you offered them that money.
100%.
100%. So we know that the buying part can actually be priced out at $25 to $75 an hour. So let's just call it $50 right in the middle, right? And then your admin time, we can price that too. And I think the market right now for admin in Toronto is anywhere from maybe $16 to $26 an hour. Would that sound reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable.
Right. So most agents, when they try to kind of like they want to double their income or they want to make more money, all they think about is that it's going to take them more time to actually do it. But the truth is, in real estate, there's no correlation between time spent and money made because I know some agents who can make a lot of money and are on vacation half the time because they've got a pretty good team leveraged. And then I know some agents who work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to maybe make 50, 60, or $70,000 gross.
Yeah, I see
Right.
that. I've seen both agents.
Right, exactly. So if you look at this whole idea, and I got this idea from Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach, who's been one of my coaches, where you can actually, price your time, and then just even if you had to think off the top of your head, what percentage in any given week are you just doing the listing side, just working with buyers, or doing admin? Like, what would be the percentage breakdown right now? Now, I know admin's a bit crazy because you've already got that hired, but just between buyers and listing, what would be your split right now?
Well, it seems like the amount of listings and buyers I have right now is about 60% listings and 40% buyers. It seems like,
Right,
and the amount of time I spend on listings is not too much because it's pretty leveraged right now, and
right,
it's pretty much just dealing with agents calling, my client calling. That's about it. And those are only maybe I'm thinking half an hour a day, like in terms of dealing with that sort of stuff. But
right,
buyers are do take up a lot more of my time because I find that I have to look on MLS every day and look
right,
down and break it down and look at the comparables. And if it's an investor, I have to do like cash flow analysis, make sure that they're okay
right,
before I send it to them. So, and that's not including going out with the buyers as well, which is like every time you go out on minimum, it's prepping and leaving and going and driving. It's probably like about 2 hours plus that time. So it's a lot more.
right.
Yeah, it's a lot more, way a lot more.
Yeah, and so that becomes the trap that most realtors fall into, is that most of their time is spent on the buyer side of their business because the listing is pretty leveraged. I mean, if you get it priced right, nail it, list it, market it properly, it's gone, right? Where buyers, you really have no control, especially when you get those calls, like the Sunday 8:30 p.m. call from your client. Hey, we found something on MLS, and you're like, oh, I've already seen it. It's not for you. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to Florida tomorrow. Is there any way you can just show it to us tonight? And so you get out of your pajamas and drive across town and show it, and they walk in, and within a minute they're like, yeah, this isn't for us, right? Like, there's a lot of wasted time on buyers too, right?
Lots, and that sounds very familiar, Glenn. I've been there many.
Same here. Done it many times. So if you think about it, what you're really, the game you get to play now is, how can I buy back my $800 to $1,000 an hour time with $50 an hour showing time?
Mhm.
That's it's called, like, that's the transfer that you get to do, right? So I know another friend of mine who lives in Thornhill, which is, and to get to downtown Toronto is about an hour and a half in rush hour traffic and an hour and a half home. And he decided that he was going to Uber each way so that he could work that extra hour and a half. And now he bills his time at $500 an hour, and he pays Uber basically $30 an hour to be his private driver. So in a month, it's 60 hours of Uber, which is like $1,800. He says, but Glenn, I'm basically trading $500 an hour time for $30 an hour.
Oh, that's pretty smart, actually.
Right. And it's incredible actually how many agents now are getting Ubers to showings, or even thinking about hiring drivers, because that's the biggest problem, especially if you're in downtown Toronto showing. It's just a hassle to move anywhere and park anywhere and get in and out, right? So, I mean, one trip downtown for most realtors to show one house could be a 3-hour round trip, right?
100%. And then in rush hour, tack on another hour.
Exactly, right. So that's the first point I would probably tell you, is over the next 90 days, it sounds like you've just hired somebody, but what can you do now to try to get them trained up to speed to operating like you did? But here I got to tell you, this is the kind of warning sign that or the big I don't even know the word for it, but most agents will have a hard time allowing someone else to show their clients, because their feedback loop all the time has been, hey, I couldn't do this without you, Kevin. Thank you so much. You helped me so much all through this journey. And like, have you heard that before from your buyers?
Mhm. I have, but I'm not in that sort of mindset anymore. I think as from reading or some other people that I read this saying that says clients are they like you for your sort of standards, but they're not
Yeah.
like to you, right? Like that's the thing. Committed to your standards, but not to you.
Exactly. And the thing is, once you can train out your standards, you can get that away. And I went through this myself, where I was like, oh my God, like, because I was doing a lot of transactions a year, I was doing everything. And then I woke up one morning and I was kind of like, okay, knock on wood, but what if I died today? What would all of my clients do? Right? And I quickly realized that they would just go and buy and sell a home with somebody else. Like, so, although they were telling me I was so important to the transaction, I thought, really, if you look at it, they'll go and do it with anybody if you're not around. So I was like, if I could just train someone to do my standard, then I can get out of the business. And so I did that with doing, like, we'd start with like 10 initial consultations where I would talk 100%. And then by after 10, the buyer agent who had been attending each one of them, they'd be talking 100%. So they're trained up on that. I'd bring them out on the orientation tours, and they wouldn't talk at first. And after 10 tours, they knew exactly what to do. And then my biggest relief came when I just got them to do my showings, but then I would tell the client, and I would always refer up. I never said, you're going to my showing assistant. I'd say, you're going to my showing specialist. Like, this person is better at finding a home than I am. But when you find that home, I'm going to come and make sure it's the right home, and then take over the negotiations. And that was the first step to getting rid of some of the hours. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah, and then eventually you work that buyer agent where they take over the negotiations too. And eventually they're just all on their own. But it's a phase. Like, you could over the next 12 months, you could have one buyer agent starts out, and over in 12 months you could almost be free of your buyers.
Mm. No, that'll be amazing. That's my big goal, anyways, is to not work weekends by getting a buyer agent to handle all those evening showings and weekend showings.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we got that one figured out. So let's talk about your niche market. Who's your perfect dream? So now you got all this extra time. Your buyers being taken care of from your existing clients and other referrals you're getting, and now you want to start dominating a niche. What would that be? Who's your dream come true client?
Well, I've been thinking about this one for a while, Glenn, and after reading your book, the McQueenie method, it gave me a lot of insight and actually did a lot of soul searching and a lot of brainstorming. And I figured that my perfect client is a client that's a young, very young family,
Hmm.
two, 1.5 kids, probably, or just
Hmm.
one. They're living in a condo townhouse right now, like a small condo townhouse that's either 2 or 3 bedrooms, and they need to move up to a freehold home that's a little bit bigger in space.
Okay. So in a way, I mean, why do you like that? Is that where you are right now in your life, or like, are you around that same demographic?
Yep, that is my demographic, and I actually did it myself. Where I a few years ago, I was in a condo townhouse with my wife. It was a 3 bedroom, like 1,200 square feet, still decent size, but we wanted to have a freehold home, like a big one, a
Right.
detached. And for us to do it, we couldn't just buy like a big enough house. The house that we wanted was out of our price range,
Right.
but so instead we were looking for houses that have like the rental component in it, that
Hmm.
has the basement apartment. So we found one that actually had the capability where we it wasn't there, but it was an unfinished basement. But so I brought in contractors to we bought the house, got contractors come in, and now I'm renting my basement for $1,600, and we're and my total carrying cost for my 5 bedroom detached house is lower than my condo townhouse.
That's the story. I mean, this is exactly the story you need to build your niche around because I don't think most people living in condos even understand you get $1,600 in rent. They're probably still thinking when they were renting it was 7 or 1,100 bucks, and they probably also don't understand that 1,600 would carry almost a $400,000 mortgage.
I
Right.
know, it's amazing, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that the kind of like taxes, although they might be higher on a freehold, proportionally they're lower in the same proportion as condos, and you don't have that big maintenance fee.
That's what it.
So, what if we just built a niche around, you know, how to like it would almost be this niche called like how to get the freehold home at the same monthly cost as your condo. And what if we could build some type of even page or business around just that concept? That because what I always think when you're planning your niche, you have to go back into your customer's head and pretend you're lying in bed with them, and they're having a conversation. It's like what was the conversation you and your wife were having at night when before you went to bed, and the conversation would probably be like, okay, I'm really sick of this condo. And we've got a young kid, and I don't want the kid to grow up in a condo, and I want to have a backyard, and I want to have the same kind of life that I had. And so there's this like ongoing conversation with the pressure mounting for most couples who've got kids inside their condo.
Yes, definitely, and we were having those conversations. We're like, we could stay here, but we're going to run out of space very soon, and if
Hmm.
we didn't move right now, the I guess the spread between a condo and a freehold home was getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
So and that urgency sort of made us do it sooner than later, which we're so happy we did.
Right. And isn't it interesting in this market now where, the condo prices in Toronto for sure have totally maintained their pace, right? Still pretty hot commodities right now. We've had some slippage maybe in the more freehold markets. I'm talking more of the outlying Toronto. I mean, I think some of the key neighborhoods in Toronto are just as expensive, but that gap is really relatively small, especially at today's interest rates, right?
Yeah, and the condo markets are insane right now. I had a bunch of clients that did that jump right now. I convinced them, I'm like, this is the time, and you could buy a freehold home, buy the freehold home, and then you know that the condo is going to sell because it's like ten offers on each condo right now.
Right. So what if you created like I always like Facebook just because it's a really interesting way of targeting your market, right? But what if you had a Facebook page called Condo to Freehold Toronto, where everything you did was posting about it's about posting properties with basement apartments, or that you could add a basement apartment that would carry for exactly what they're paying for their condo right now.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, actually, that's a great idea.
Yeah, like couldn't you could find a bunch of homes right now, and couldn't you almost spotlight those homes on your Facebook page, right? Like, hey, there's a new listing here. There's something like this. Hey, right now, would you like a free list of the 9 freehold houses in on the Danforth or in Bloor West or in High Park, Swansea? And for those people listening, these are all areas that typically people move out of condos and go into in Toronto that would carry for less than your condo is.
That's not hard to do. Like I do that anyways for a lot of my investor clients. Where are looking for at least 2 units
Yeah,
in houses.
right. And then, but the beautiful thing about this is that who would want that list? Who would want the list of a freehold house that would carry for the same as my condo is carrying right now?
Anyone that's looking for the move up right now.
That's right. So all we have to do is give them the right lure, right? And then they're going to be the ones who are going to be reaching out to it. And we could also almost do like a tour, right? I was helping a guy in Montreal who had a very similar market to you, where it was moving from like a condo into like they were older homes like 1910 to 1930 in downtown Montreal, which is the same in Toronto, the same age houses. And he believed that their biggest fear was that if I'm going to move up, will I have any money, or is this house going to bankrupt me because there's all these repairs? And so what I suggested to him, and I do the same to you, is why don't you do the weekend tour of those homes with a home inspector who actually comes and educates them? Like, couldn't you have 5 couples join you on one tour on Saturday between 11 and 1 a.m., find a babysitter for all of their kids, and bring them out, because you know what it's like seeing homes with a child. Like, they're good for one home, right? And then start, like, that's what we're actually promoting, is here's the Saturday tour from 11 to 1 to go and see these properties. Or if they don't want to worry about the kids, how about the lunch tour from 12 to 1 in the area that they're looking at, and we'll pick you up, or we'll Uber them over, and we're going to go and show you 3 or 4 houses in that very short deadline that we have in lunch. You take an extra hour, you got 2 hours, and you can go and see it. And then all we really have to do is target those properties and target the offerings of the tours for people like you to put their hand up and go, hey, I want to get on that tour.
Mm. Yeah, that sounds it's different for sure, and it's a way to get a lot of people together, right?
Yeah. And then I would also probably, if you are targeting people just like you with kids, the biggest factor for most of them is not even the house, I would argue right now. It's the school district that they're going to be going into. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like that is one thing that's always on parents' minds when they're looking for, especially the move up, right? And I see from time again that parents are always worried about, what school district, like what's the schools like when they move in, like what's on the Fraser Institute, what's the grading, uh,
Right.
and what's the history, and what's the demographic and such.
Yeah. So what if you, on that same, condo to freehold um, business page, couldn't you put, hey, I just compiled the list of the top 10 best school districts to move up to from your condo. Just private message me if you want this list. You could find that list pretty quickly, right? Because when they message you for the list, you can just reply and go, okay, I want to make sure I'm sending you the right list. What area are you looking in? And now you just can almost do a kind of like via private message a buyer consultation with them, and then you could easily pick the best schools in that area, right?
Oh, yeah, that's sort of, and you sort of customize it to what they're looking for then.
Absolutely. And then you could also do kind of like I wonder if we could do something like this. This might be fun. What if you did a I'm trying to. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm thinking about. What's the easy button where someone can find out exactly what their condo's worth? Although most of them already know, because they can find out what everything's sold for. It's not like this big value add. But how could we present something to them where it's like, if you live here, your condo's probably worth this, and if you're moving here, it's probably this, and the spread is this, and that's going to be an extra 1,600 a month in um, mortgage payments. But if we get a basement apartment, even for the first couple of years, it's zero. Like, could we almost build a table in different areas of the spread, what it would cost to buy from here to a freehold, and offer that as basically like a download or a, you're just adding value and position yourself as the expert that you know the gap to move in all the areas they're thinking about moving
That's pretty awesome. Like I just have to get averages for that,
in.
and we know what areas they want to move in anyways. A lot of times they're going to be moving to another part in the city or just outside of the city, right?
Right. And then what you're going to find is people will kind of like rally around the conversation you have with them. So next time you're at a listing and someone comes to you and it's a condo or whatever, and they go, "Oh, how's the market?" Instead of just saying what everyone else says, "Oh, it's good, it's really busy." Why don't you say, "Oh, it's great. I just helped a young couple sell their condo for more than they thought they were going to get, and they were able to buy this freehold town for a freehold house for less than they thought, and it's got a basement apartment, and it's actually cheaper to carry that house than it was to live in their condo right now. And they're in a great school district. They've got a great backyard for their kids. They got parking for their car. They don't have to use the elevator anymore." Like, the more you tell that story every time anybody ever asks you about real estate,
Mm-hmm.
that's the winning formula. Because, and then at the end of the story, you just say, "So if who do you know who's thinking about moving up from their condo to here? Because there's a great deal on the market here, and this is what it would carry for because of the basement."
Mm. Yeah, that's a great story, and people love stories, right?
Yeah. And what if you could go back to your past client base right now because you've already sold them all their condos already? They're thinking about moving, and send them a newsletter and just feature two stories of people just like them who you helped move up, because I want them to read that and go, "That's me." And I didn't know, I thought Kevin just sold condos. I didn't know his specialty was actually moving people from the condo into that neighborhood.
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be a great idea to I guess touch my database for sure. And I know who's living in condos right now and who has kids, right?
Exactly. Like, you could almost target that, right? And you could even just call them, and just when they ask you, hey, you can call and ask. I was teacher agents always ask to, call their past clients and ask two questions: "How are you? How's the house?" Right? That's all you have to say, and then they're inevitably going to ask you about the market, and then that gives you the opportunity to
Mhm.
actually start talking about what you do.
Oh,
And I
wow.
guess the last idea, because we're kind of running over time here, the last idea I would give you is, what if you did video CMAs for all of those people who are sitting in their condos right now, who you think are most likely to move? So a video CMA is basically just open up your computer, your PC, you've got your phone, and I would just lift up the phone, look into it, and go, "Hey, John, it's Glenn. Just want to let you know I'm looking at some of the recent sales in your building." And then you turn the phone, put it onto the MLS, say, "Look at these units here sold for this, this, this. Looks like your investment's doing really well." Then you turn the phone back to you. "Looks like things are doing really well. I thought you just want to know. Take care. Talk to you soon." Boom. And then just send them the video link.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, I'm doing something very similar to that. I'm doing CMAs through Google Hangout, and
Yeah.
I do about 3 a week with my clients, and it's working. I found a couple of clients that are possibly ready to move because of this task I do every week.
Yeah, it's great. But and you could, I would add the video to those hangouts, because there's nothing more personal than them seeing your face. And because what it says when you do the 30-second video CMA, it says, "Oh, I'm important. I matter. You didn't forget me." And Kevin's a great guy for sending this to me. Like, you don't say, like, at the end of the call, don't go, "So if you're thinking about buying or selling, call me." No, you've ruined it. Or, "Hey, I heart referrals," or, "I love referrals." You've ruined it. Just give come from contribution and say, "This is, I was just thinking about you, thought you'd want to know, talk to you later." Like, I don't know why every financial planner doesn't do a video every month to their client for 30 seconds saying, "Hey, listen, I'm just looking at your investments. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it."
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good touch point for sure. It's
Yeah,
better than email or text or anything else.
yeah, for sure. So, so have you got some good ideas? Do you think you can figure this out?
I do, Glenn, but I have a question for you though, because since I was
Mm-hmm.
reading your book, I'm sort of stuck at a part there. It's your 135 part of the book.
Right.
And I was wondering if you could give me some insight and how to actually break down my goals.
Sure. So the 135 is just a tool that really helps you basically set your plan for the year, right? It's a really simple tool. You could do it for a project or you could do it for the year. So the 1 stands for what's your one goal?
Mhm.
The 3 is what are the 3 strategies that if you executed the strategies, you'll hit your goal? And then what are the 5 priorities that have to be done in order that each strategy is hit? And you can reverse it. You can say, there's my goal. What are my 3 priorities to hit the goal? And then what are my 5 strategies? It doesn't really matter between priorities and strategies. So if your goal is to, let's say your goal this year was to do 15 more transactions of just helping people downsize from condos to freehold homes. Would that be a good goal for you? Like
That'd be,
15 additional.
that'd be amazing.
Okay. So, what are the 3 things that we have to do in order for you to hit that goal? So, number 1 would be go back to your own existing database and see who is most likely to make the move from your past clients. Number 2 would be create a Facebook page where I could do targeted ads in order to deliver the product they're looking for to people who are thinking about buying that product, right? And number 3, what is the unique experience I could create for these people that would help me build, that would get them out on the tour with me, and also create like a tribe of raving fans. So that's your 1, 2, 3, right? You got that so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so under the first one, which is now we have to list the 5 action steps basically that'll help you hit that first goal. So the first one is, you know, so the first step would be open up database, right? Go through all my past clients and circle the people most likely to do something. Number 3, either do a video CMA or call them and ask them how are they doing, how's their home. Number 4, write a newsletter article that would be targeted, like it would seem like it's going out to everybody, but it's really going out to them, talking about how you help someone just like them solve that problem. And 5, follow up, on the above 4, right? Does that make sense?
100%, yeah.
Yeah. And what was the second one? I forgot that one already. What was
Yeah,
it?
Facebook page. That was
Yeah. And so that 5 would be easy is like go to Facebook, create the business page, come up with the name for the page, start adding great content marketing that's going to attract only those type of people. Share your testimonials from people you've already helped and tell your story. And 5, I'll put more offers out there like, oh, here's my list of the top 10 freehold homes that you can move up to that have basement apartments that carry for exactly what your condo is. And then on the third one is about creating the unique experience would be, schedule a weekend tour or a lunch tour of these very specific homes, and that would be 1. Number 2, if it's on the weekend, arrange for babysitting for those people who are going to come, on the tour. Number 3, bring a home inspector along to maybe make sure that, all the repairs they're thinking about aren't really that big of a deal, and is it possible to maybe put in a basement apartment, Number 4, do the breakdown of okay, with this basement apartment and this price, this is exactly what it's going to cost to carry your house. And then the 5th would be schedule more tours, create my tribe of raving fans, and position yourself to get lots of referrals from them. So if you build that, the 1, 3, 5, then all you have to do is just focus on the 5 key tasks below, and then that will all feed up to what the 3 main priorities or strategies you need in order to hit your big goal for the year.
it makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down. Now that you broke it down to like actionable steps, it makes it more, it seems like it's more attainable now.
Yeah, and it's just like the easiest way to look at it is 1 would be I'm planning a vacation. The 3 thing would be book it, find out where to go, set your budget, and then the 5 steps are what do you need to do under each one of those 3 categories. So
Makes sense. Makes sense.
all right. So well, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for joining me. Do you have any other questions, or are we good?
You covered everything, Glenn, and that was very, very informative and helpful. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thanks a million for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.